And welcome back. That you just heard it from the locker room right there that Coach Rivera was excited about tonight's win, thought it was a good win, got one more game to go, but said he was going to enjoy this one before getting ready for the final game of the season going to a very potent New Orleans team.
Yeah, one more game left trying to finish the season off strong. If they can get a win next weekend in New Orleans, they will finish with one more win than they did last year, so that is considered an improvement. So I know it has been a disappointing year for throughout, but it's good to see this team playing good football, and it's good to hear in the locker room when you ask the coaches, when you ask the players, Cam, all of those guys, they say everybody can say they don't have anything to play for, but this team has something to play for. They want to play for their teammates, they want to play for each other, they want to play for the fans, and they've done that. So if you're a fan, you kind of got to be happy with how they're playing and be proud that they didn't give up and didn't quit.
You do, and this is the second year the Panthers have made a strong finish, 4 out of the last 5, 3 in a row. It's just a matter now, how can we figure out how to get it going and not have the slow starts? Maybe the things they've learned here, and Cam made the comment about if you're going to be a playoff team, you've got to learn how to win in November and December, which they're doing that now, though. But we've got to figure out how to win in September and October.
Yeah, they do. You got to win the early games. They're just as important as the games down the stretch. I mean, when the NFL, there's only 16 games, so it's not like an NBA season, not like Major League Baseball. Every game matters so much. So even the first game of the year, when you go down to Tampa Bay, a team you probably should beat, and you let one slip away, those are the kind of games that you can't give away because it's a matter of one game of who's going to make the playoffs. And there's so much parity in the NFL that you got to be ready to play week in and week out. And I think this team is finally starting to learn that. So we'll see if they can carry it in the next year. The big question will be, what kind of changes are made? Is this enough of a run here at the end of the year to keep Ron Rivera's job? There's a new GM that's going to be here, or do they want to go in a different route and the GM wants to pick his own guy? A lot of things up in the air. So this game, the last week of the season against New Orleans, has big implications. I mean, a win could maybe save Rivera his job. I'm still on the fence 50-50. I think you are too. Do they give Rivera another year and see that if they've learned some things and keep this going, or do they go in a new direction? It's going to be interesting to see.
Again, it's kind of interesting. Cam Newton's play has really improved, but he gives Kuechly the credit right now, said that he has been the guy who has really turned it up a notch, again, turned into a crowd favorite with Luke, and all like that, though. But, again, my guy who I think has really had a great year, kind of slipped through the cracks, Thomas Davis has played an outstanding year with him and Kuechly at linebacker. Thomas Davis' speed, he's feeling comfortable now. He talked about in the interview, heard with his faith on being able to come back strong, though. But what a 1-2 punch at linebacker.
Yeah, those guys are all over the field. I mean, Kuechly, in my mind, should be hands down Defensive Rookie of the Year. Either first or second in the NFL in tackles, not rookies, in tackles overall. I mean, he led there for a couple of weeks, so just unbelievable play. And those two guys feed off each other. To see Thomas Davis come back like this and have the kind of comeback that he did, it's just great. And when those two guys play at a high level, this defense can be successful, and we've seen that in this 3-game winning streak.
And you got to give this team credit because you look at the guys who are on IR right now. They've lost players, lost John Beeson early, but they lost Khalil, the starting center. A lot of guys had to bring in players in the middle of the year who are stepping in now, playing and producing, though. But I give Rivera a little bit of credit for keeping things together. And like Cam said, this team plays with a lot of pride. And he said hopefully if anybody realizes anything, that they're not giving up, that he's never quit and the guys in the locker room have not quit. And that's a tribute to their play here at the end of the year.
Well, listen, you haven't had Jonathan Stewart in this 3-game winning streak. You haven't had Ryan Khalil. Those are two guys who are two of your key parts in your offense. You lose the rookie Sulatulu to an injury during the game. I mean, your offensive line is really beat up right now, and you're really having to go with some makeshift guys. And you can kind of see how they kind of struggled just a little bit out there today, but they were able to grind it out and get a win. And I think that's one of the things that Rivera has on his side about this team, about possibly coming back, depending on what ownership decides. These players do play hard for him, and Rivera even did it himself after the game. He held himself accountable. He said, look, we had a bad start in the first half of the season. That's on me. I got to get these guys ready to play, and I got to make sure that we're doing the right things when we're on the field. So I've always never questioned Rivera. He's a good guy. I mean, I never questioned his character. He's a good guy. He always tells you like it is. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He tells us when he needs to be accountable. He tells us all that stuff. So I do love Ron Rivera in that regard. The question is he the right guy to continue building this process, or do we need to go a different route? I'm still 50-50. I've seen the close games that they've lost, and I've seen how they've lost them, and I think that goes back on coaching. But then again, he's only been the coach 2 years, so maybe you give him one more year. I really don't know. I'm on the fence. You see me going back and forth. It'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of the year on that.
Maybe it's Christmas Eve, but I'm going out on the limb, and I'm going to give him a vote of confidence because I think that he's held them together through some tough times. I think he's a positive influence. I think he's good in the community. I think he's a good honest guy like that, though. And, again, young coach, I know what it's like having been a young coach and jumping in with your first head coaching job and stuff. You make mistakes. You learn as you go along, though. But I like the way they finished strong. I like the way he's kept the locker room together when they could have, split, gone different ways and like that, though. I give him another year.
Well, I mean, I agree with you on that. I like what he's done, and I want to go back, like I said, I can't decide now, and I'm not going to say it on camera because I go back and forth. I want to see what happens in that last game. It may not mean anything to fans, but that's a big game for me. I think if he wants to even ensure himself more of having a chance to keeping his job, they need to go down there and win in New Orleans and end on a 4-game winning streak because you don't want to finish with the same record 2 years in a row. But I want to jump to Cam for a second. I mean, I tell everybody out there, to our listeners, anybody, our viewers, go back and watch Cam Newton's press conference today. If you don't think that this kid who's up has seen his play, he's been one of the better quarterbacks in last 5 weeks. If you don't think that he's grown up and the light bulbs went off and he's starting to get it, just take a look at today's press conference. He gives all the credit for energizing this team on this 3-game winning streak. He said it's not about his play, even though he's played great.
Panthers finished strong at home with 2 wins here to end the season. This is our final it's not living above the rim, but this is our final on the Prowl with the Carolina Panthers. I want to thank some people right now. I want to thank Charlie Dayton, Stephen Drummond, Ryan Anderson, Caroline Sexton, one of the interns, all the people who have made these broadcasts possible. These people have been more than hospitable for us with the things they do, the opportunities they provide us with. Special thanks for them. I want to also say a special hello to young men to help us today, trying this morning. Hang in there, Tron. We're praying for you, and we want all of our family Christmas.
Yeah. Allow us to do.
With the Carolina